You have a quorum, so we are good to go.
We have someone on the call with the phone ending in 5358. Could you give us your name, please? Thank you.
Denise Peoples, can you hear me?
We got you. Thank you, Denise. I knew who it was. I wanted to be sure.
Okay.
8, okay. And I am seeing 9 on the call. Am I correct?
Mm-mm.
No. 6, 7, 8. I'm sorry, 8.
Earl, were you able to hear Cecilia at all? She was speaking on a mic.
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
No, I see her talking, but I can't hear her.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Nope, only the echo from the room.
Make sure that
Did I miss roll call?
Not yet, Commissioner Alderman, not
Oh.
yet.
Okay, thank you.
Earl, can you hear Don?
Yeah, I can hear Don.
Okay, all right. Lucky day.
That's why I said, there goes my record. Rich, I don't know what we're gonna do from here. Do I have my quorums?
yes, yes.
Okay. And it's recording, so we're ready for the meeting at this point. We'll call it to order at 5:30 for 5:35. First thing, if we could go ahead with roll call, please.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Kuhn, Commissioner Banton,
Present.
Commissioner Boaz,
Present.
Commissioner Bradley,
Present.
Commissioner Peoples. Present. Commissioner Goodman,
Present.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Present.
Commissioner Weber.
Sorry, present.
Chair Strather,
Present.
and you have a quorum of 9.
All right, thank you very much. Prior to the approval of minutes, I first want to thank everybody. Hope you had a wonderful and safe holiday, the best to your families from the past week. At that point, the first order of business is the approval of minutes. Hopefully, everybody received it. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, Banton.
Moved by Commissioner Weber, second by Commissioner Banton. Call for vote, please.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Kuhn, Commissioner Banton,
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples. Aye. Commissioner Goodman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Aye.
Commissioner Weber,
Aye.
Chair Strather,
Aye.
and the motion passes with the aye.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle, and thank you for the staff. At this point, there are 3 presentations and then one item that Cecilia will bring up at that point. The first one is Alexa, I believe, is doing, which is 40-21 RDC, 4201 R Geraldine.
So good evening, planning commissioners. First on the agenda is a review of a redevelopment plan for the area that is approximately 1.7 acres in the Mark Twain neighborhood, Mark Twain I-70 industrial neighborhood specifically, and in the 22nd ward. On the site is an unoccupied industrial building. At this time, there isn't a proposed developer, but the goal is to be proactive and attract redevelopers to the area through tax abatement incentives. Next slide, please. The redevelopment area sloop designation is business and industrial development area, which encourages new business, industrial uses or campuses. And these are typically areas that have experienced a drop in a level of economic activity from its earlier peak. Next, this is a view of the industrial building, and the following slides will orient you as to the adjacent property surrounding this site. To the east of the site is an industrial building, which is the House of Metals Exchange, a service center offering sheet, plate, coil, tubing, and pipe. Next slide. Also to the east is a family-owned and operated Mid-States Container Company. South is an industrial warehouse. Also south is across the street on Brown Avenue is Precision Office Installers. And then west of the building is also another industrial warehouse. So after review of the request, staff recommends that the area is declared to be blighted. And we also find that the blighting study and redevelopment plan is in conformity with the sloops designation, which is BITA. And staff recommends approval of the blighting study and redevelopment plan. I am happy to answer any questions, and we also have Zachary Wilson from SODC on the line who could also answer questions.
Thank you. First thing, I will entertain a statement or comments by the alderman of that ward, Alderman and Commissioner Boyd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually going to ask that the planning commission hold this because based on the presentation, that's not the building. And based on my understanding, it's been some confusion as to where that building is actually located. There was a survey done and that's not the building from what my understanding is. It has been the building that LRA has publicized in the past, but after having a survey done, clearly, if you had a picture of where the building actually is, it would actually say 4201 Geraldine Rear or something like that. And it's not that building.
Can we go back to the map, please? Scott?
Yeah. And it's always been my understanding that that building, let's see, where are we right there? Okay.
Keep going.
So it's my understanding, I've walked that, you would go down Geraldine and you would enter into a location that has an actual easement where there's I think it is the container company, but there's a gate there that is always locked and there's an easement where you actually go back to 4102 Geraldine. And the address is on the building. It's marked as 4102 Geraldine and it's based off a survey that I have found or that I saw. So I'm just not sure of if we have the right legal description or the right address or what's going on. But that's not the building as to my understanding.
Can we also have Zach chime in if that's all right?
Alderman, are you talking about the picture's not the same, correct? Or is it the parcel? Because the parcel is 4201R Geraldine. So are you disputing the parcel or are you disputing the picture? I'm just curious.
I guess I don't know because I'm looking, so the picture in my mind, because I visited the site and I saw a building that said 4201 Geraldine and it actually faces Geraldine. But this building, the photographs that you're showing, if you're at the corner of Geraldine and Brown, so that little, that would be the southeast corner where it looks like a little L.
Yeah,
that is where you would look at that building. And that's, I don't think that's the building. And unless the surveyor is wrong, because when the guy bought the building, I said, hey, something doesn't seem right with this. You better make sure you get a survey and make sure that you have the actual, the right, building based on all the property lines and everything. And so there's some confusion right now. The picture doesn't
Okay.
match up to the pictures that I
Well,
have.
this is the parcel LRA told me was just purchased by that individual, so, and the building, so I'll go back to LRA and the property owner and see what I can find, okay?
And Zach, I will email you, matter of fact, because it's late and I will email you the survey that I got and the information, because the guy that bought it is trying to do something with it. And he paid for a survey and some drawings and all kind of stuff. So I just think there's some confusion. I would rather not vote on it in the planning commission until we're absolutely sure on the property lines.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So I will entertain, based off the conversation, I will entertain a motion from Alderman to hold this, or make the motion you want to make. Let me say it that way.
Well, I will make a motion to hold this until the next planning commission meeting, pending further review of the property description, the legal description, I should say.
So it's been moved to table the motion. Do I hear a second?
Not table, no, the
I'm
motion
sorry.
is to hold.
To hold,
Or
I'm sorry, to
defer.
hold.
Defer. Can you say this?
Or defer. Okay, the motion, I amend my motion to defer
Okay.
action on this until the next planning commission meeting, pending review of the actual legal description.
Which may also cause for a change at the redevelopment plan itself, obviously.
Okay. All right.
Grace,
Yeah.
it's been moved to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Goodman. Call for vote.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Banton,
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples,
Aye.
Commissioner Goodman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Aye.
Commissioner Weber,
Aye.
Chair Strother.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting aye to defer to next PC meeting.
All right, so we will leave that up to the alderman for that ward, the LRI to clarify the description in their recommendation and bring development plan back to the next meeting. With that, then Jonathan has the next item on the agenda.
Good evening, planning commissioners and chair. The second item on the agenda this evening is a petition for a rezoning. The petitioner, St. Louis University, wishes to consolidate 12 adjoining parcels, 13.9 acres in total, in order to consolidate into one parcel. In order to consolidate parcels, they almost have the same zoning designation, so that's what they're looking at tonight. The subject properties, they're located in the Midtown neighborhood within the 19th ward and also falls within the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment area. And currently the parcels are, the area is a dually zoned from J industrial and K unrestricted. And the petitioner seeks to rezone everything to K unrestricted area for one reason, due to the setbacks that are allowed for the proposed development. Secondly, there is a small 0.2 acre parcel at the corner of Compton and Shoto, which is highlighted very small on the screen as a dotted yellow. And that the staff is requesting the planning commission to consider rezoning by initiation that piece that is owned by the city. Currently, it is used as right away for the Compton Bridge and access. And that is currently Zone J. So we would ask along with the 12 other parcels to rezone all of these into a rezoning of K. Next slide, please. The next slide shows a plat of the subject area highlighted in blue. The orange piece at the very bottom right contains the area that staff is asking to be rezoned by initiation. And you can also notice that at the very bottom to the left side, there is a square piece that's kind of cut out. This parcel here is still in operation. It is not owned by the petitioner, and they are not seeking to rezone that, nor have control the property. So it's just everything in blue and the yellow on the screen. The project falls within the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment area. And within the plan for this area, the plan identifies this area as Action Area 6, which calls for a significant new development that is non-residential mixed use. Next slide, please. And looking at the strategic land use plan, the sloop designates this area as business industrial development area, which under what we call beta, new business is encouraged in this area. Next slide, please. The site is currently zoned a mix of J industrial and K unrestricted and dual zoning. So in order to consolidate the parcels into one, the parcels must have the same zoning, which we're looking to rezone to K. Next slide, please. And here is an aerial of the site. As you can highlighted in blue. As you can see, the site is halfway vacant, where the green or the grass really is used intermittently as practice fields for St. Louis University. And on the left side of that in the blue area, there is an existing industrial activities there. Slide, please. Point. I will take you on a tour of the site and the surrounding sites, starting with the center of the site and going in a clockwise fashion around. And we have the bottom street there is Shoto, and the one on the right is Compton. And as you can see, you have the grassy area being the vacant / the practice fields for St. Louis University, and the existing industrial uses that are going on today. Next slide. Across the street to the immediate east, or across from Compton, you have offices and also retail services. The Napa Auto Parts is next door. Next slide. To the immediate south of the site, especially at the Shoto and Compton intersection, you have Casa de Salud. Next slide. The parcel that is not included in the rezoning, that square at the bottom, this is what is there today, which is a bit of industrial activity. Next slide. And to the east, I'm sorry, the west of the site, you have more industrial uses as well. Next slide. And PDA has received the zoning administrator's report. The zoning administrator notes that the rezoning of the site would create additional regional opportunities and would activate a visible and vacant underutilized intersection. Staff finds that the rezoning is in conformity with the sloops business industrial development area. And also, as we find, as the activity is going on or non-residential commercial activity, we do also find that the rezoning would be in line with the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment area. Also, staff finds that the one city initiated parcel owned by the city would also be in conformance with the sloop for the business industrial preservation area or development area, sorry. And also the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan. And at this time, staff is open for questions or comments. The petitioner is here this evening, and we recommend approval of the rezoning.
All right, thank you. At that point, Jonathan, at this point, we'll go through as we normally do. The commissioners, beginning with Alderman Boyd, then Commissioner Banton. Alderman Boyd, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions.
Thank you. After Commissioner Banton, Commissioner Bass. Commissioner Banton, any questions?
Alderman Kuhn is here too.
Oh, Alderman Cohen, welcome. Sorry that I did not notice you were here present. Any questions to this?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about not noticing. Thank you. Commissioner Banton?
Yes, a couple questions. Usually with these rezoning requests, we get some idea about what the development proposal is. And in this case, all we had in our packet was like an entertainment golf facility. Is there a reason that we don't have more information on that with this?
With this, the petitioner is on, and I could defer to how much they would like to disclose, but it's not for rezoning like this. It's not necessary to have all the documents. A lot of the times we do include when we have them, and it's nice to have, but it's not a requirement for a rezoning.
And who's the petitioner online?
Should be a George Stock
Okay.
or even a Todd and Brooks Gettiger if he is on.
Okay, I'll allow any of them to respond to Commissioner Banton if they choose at this time. Okay, continue, Commissioner Banton. I'm not hearing any.
Well,
response.
I'm just a little curious on why, I mean, what opportunity would the public have to, to say they want to come or make a statement to this at this planning commission meeting over a rezoning if we don't even know what the redevelopment proposal is?
Commissioner Banton, this is George Stock. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. This evening, as Mr. Roper indicated, we're specifically just asking for a rezoning. We are planning an outdoor recreational facility on this property. It will be open to the public, but as part of this initial application and as we develop our plans, we followed the checklist for the rezoning and filed the requirements that were necessary for the consideration by the Planning Commission. But what I can say is we're actively working on a plan for an outdoor entertainment facility that would be open to the public.
So it's been pretty widely reported that Topgolf is being considered for this site. And as with those developments come very large 170-foot tall poles that are quite visible. And I'm wondering what opportunity would neighbors or nearby businesses have to protest against that if they were concerned once this rezoning goes through?
So if I could chime in real quickly, there will be a time at the public hearing for the Board of Aldermen. And that's traditionally where the public hearing and where people can chime in. And they are also welcome to, chime in here tonight. But I would stress on this rezoning. So of the 12 parcels, many of them are already zoned for K. They're actually a dual zone between J and K. On the screen that you see right now, there is the project area is outlined in black. There's only a very small slither, which is right above the word Shoto, that has it as J industrial /K. So for the most part, all the parcels are already zone K. It's just in order to do a lot consolidation to make it one parcel, you can't not have by city regulation a dual zone parcel. So it either has to be a J or a K, but we're actually not changing the zoning district to anything that it's not already today.
Yeah.
Or allow a use that's not already allowed today.
I understand that. It comes off as a little bit shady to me. That's all. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Banton. Commissioner Boaz.
No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Bradley.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peoples.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodman.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pfeffer.
A few quick questions, and I totally understand, as staff is explaining, that this is largely an administrative consolidation of zoning. But it would be helpful, I think Commissioner Banton has picked up on an important point here in terms of transparency. Will there be additional details available about the proposed use by the time that the board bill makes it before the HUD's committee?
I'm going to defer to George Stock on that one.
I think our preference would be to keep our drawings as a work in process, with all due respect. Again, I think the way we've approached this and the map that's on the screen is very, telling of the zoning, that 80% of the site has already the zoning. So we're not asking for a change in zoning from what's there today. Again, our drawings and our plans are a work in process, and at such time as it's appropriate to publicly identify those, we will certainly do so. And hopefully you can respect, I don't think there's anything shady here. We have a project that we are, trying to develop and make sure that it's fully ready before we, go public with it. So we're really following the process. The first process was the lot consolidation plat of the St. Louis University, and that was completed at the Board of Public Service and recorded. And this is really the second step in the process, is just getting the overall zoning in place.
Mm-hmm. And would an outdoor this question is for planning staff, would an outdoor entertainment center be a permissible use under zoning area J?
The zoning area J would allow for this to happen, yes. The item that the reason that we see K, however, though, there's a difference in setback regulations under J and K. So the difference being that the setbacks would allow for more of the use that the proposed use would. The setbacks would allow for the, I guess, project to happen more so if under K due to the setbacks.
Thank you. That's helpful and underscores, as I was saying at the beginning, that this really is an administrative consolidation. We're not changing really the permissions on this land so much as just updating the map. But nonetheless, I think what we heard from Commissioner Banton, and which I want to amplify, is that this is a geography that's actually about to undergo a pretty serious transformation. This isn't the only project at what has been historically, I think you all described it as a underutilized intersection. We also have the Delhi Star project bringing roughly 500 jobs coming in right across the street on the east side, on the northeast side of Compton and Shoto. And so this is a geography that's about to change a lot, and there should be an opportunity for the community to register any concerns they may have, any opportunities that they may be able to identify. And I just strongly encourage the SLUT 353 to coordinate with the planning department as their vision goes forward. I know that spirit of cooperation is one that they have brought to the city previously. But it's really important in particular to work not just with city departments, but really with the community. So I hope you all take that to heart and know that the city is a partner in terms of engaging in that dialogue with the community about the future of this geography. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Chair, if I could just quickly respond to one item in there, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. There was legislation that was recently passed that would actually set some of the public hearings to both not only the Board of Aldermen, which they are now, but also as a duty of the Planning Commission. So I'm sorry.
I'll go through that later this meeting.
Cecilia will actually update you after these resolutions about that as well. But so come 2022, this body will be able to have public hearings to do exactly what Mr. Pfeffer has mentioned.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Weber.
Yes, I do have some questions. I don't understand how we're gonna put a nice, attractive recreational facility next to that little parcel on the bottom left that's still industrial, number one. Number two is why doesn't SLU buy that little parcel on the right end? Why are they excluding that? And why are we excluding the parcel that, I don't know who owns it, the parcel up there in the upper right hand? Why don't they just take it all? I don't understand.
So in regards to the parcels, start with the one at the city initiated parcel, the little triangle at the corner. That currently would not be purchased by SLU because it actually acts as right of way for Compton and bridge access. So if they bought the parcel, technically they would buy a part of the road. So that would remain under the city of St. Louis's jurisdiction there. The properties a little bit to the north of this site, as you can see, some of those white lines, that actually goes into a little bit more of utilities. I believe part of the railroads, or there's a little bit of utilities and stuff that are there. And they're also already zone K, so they would not need to, any of the parcels that are gray on top there would not need to be rezoned. The third is
No, hold on, Jonathan. Perhaps my question wasn't clear. Right there at the S on the word before Compton.
Yes.
That little triangle there, why wouldn't they want to make this a parcel that's whole, that's not crooked? That's what I was asking.
That is a question for, well, St. Louis University. We're here for the rezoning, not about.
So who owns that little crooked thing?
So at this time, this is a petition-driven request. So we are, doing this based on the petitioner and their request to rezone their properties. Short of the Planning Commission initiating a separate rezoning request, they will not be, we will not be changing any additional rezonings of any other parcels unless they come forward. In order for a SLU to take any additional parcels, they would have to go through specific processes. They don't own those parcels. And so they're working with the properties that they currently have.
I appreciate that very much. Does anybody know who owns that piece of property?
Commissioner Weber, this is George Stock. That's owned by Union Electric.
Okay, and thank you. And what about my first question about the lower left hand? Will this wonderful project, and I'm in favor of this. I just, will I come down there and participate in recreation and have to look at all this industrial stuff in that lower left-hand corner?
I would say you would not have to look at it as you're participating in the facility.
Okay, if it won't ruin the experience, then fine. Thank you all.
It would not. You're welcome.
Okay, with that, I want to return to Commissioner Alderman Kuhn, I believe has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I dialed in a little bit late. I had dinner before joining the call, so my apologies. I'm just coming up to speed. With respect to this action, we're voting on changing the light gray J to K. Am I correct in that understanding, Jonathan?
That is correct. And the light J, which blends in really well with the white, is just above the word Shoto Avenue.
So I guess my concern then, I've been told over my 13 odd years with the city, particularly if I recall correctly, by the zoning administrator, Mary Hart Burton, that we really don't want properties sitting in K unrestricted. This particular project aside, zoning isn't, it follows the property, not the owner. And so that would make this basically the least restricted zoning and that we have underneath our city's zoning code. And if Topgolf or, project recreation at the corner of Shoto and Compton goes away, then essentially those properties facing Shoto would then have unrestricted classification associated with them. And to change that to the benefit of the neighbors or the neighborhood or whomever would be a pretty Herculean feat at that point in time, unless it's petitioned by the owner of the property, which most people don't want more restrictions on their property, they want less. So why wouldn't we, if these are permissible, if this use is permissible underneath J and K, why wouldn't we just stick with J versus K?
Under the proposal, the setbacks, so one of the differences that is sought here are the setback differences between the J district and the K district. So under this proposal before us, the K unrestricted setbacks that are allowed for this development would allow for the development. Under J, there would need to be variances that would need to be granted at the time.
I guess, and that would be my question / concern, is why wouldn't they just go through the variance process where they would need to file before the Board of Adjustments? There would be another publicly posted hearing, at which point in time they could have their drawings or whatever if they're still finalizing, a deal with whomever. And that would also afford the neighbors another opportunity to be able to testify, in favor or opposition to whatever is taking place there. So why wouldn't they just file a variance instead of changing the zoning to unrestricted?
We could try to, zoning administrator has her hand raised, chair. Let
Go
her
ahead.
get it.
Yeah, recognizing Mary Burton. I'm sorry, I did not see her hand.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to clarify a couple of things. First of all, the big reason for the rezoning is that we don't allow people to consolidate parcels that are zoned differently. So that's why they're doing the rezoning. There is the advantage, based on early discussions with the applicant and their representatives, that having the K would resolve a side yard issue for them. So we typically try not to rezone something when we know it's still going to cause them to have to go get a variance. So that's the main reason for asking for the least restrictive zoning there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Does that address your question, Commissioner Cohn?
Not in particular. I guess I didn't realize that Mary was here. So if I may inquire of her, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Mary, I don't see too often where we're changing zoning to unrestricted, which, I mean, you're well aware that's our least restrictive use in the city. And I mean, this is a highly visible intersection. I'm more concerned about the long term in terms of, this project goes through great, what if it's a Union Station or St. Louis Center circa 1980 and it's gone in 10 years. And another person comes in and wants to put in, a chop shop or a tire collection center or something along those lines. What recourse would we have at that point?
And don't worry about it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Well, no.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Again, I have to say that whether the site is zone J or K, the use of the outdoor recreation center is allowed. So the only difference having the K makes is that it takes away the variance for the side yard. And again, we try to rezone things so that when we're doing the rezoning, we don't also cause them to have to go through the extra step of a variance. I don't know how any other way to explain it.
No, Mary, I guess I'll rephrase it. So Topgolf or whomever decides to close up shop in 10 years. We have now rezoned Shoto as unrestricted. So what businesses are permitted and unrestricted? I mean, do we have any latitude whatsoever with unrestricted?
You shouldn't be fooled by the name of the district unrestricted, because the unrestricted district still does have some regulations on it. You know, like all of your scrap metal and junkyard type uses, they still require a conditional use.
Okay. So I guess
So
that's.
there are still some restrictions. And I mean, you know, I could sit here and read them all off to you.
No, I don't think that's necessary.
That's not necessary. I just want to.
So I'm not trying to be flip. I'm just saying that there really is no, you know, underlying reason for recommending the K over the J, other than the fact that it does take the side yard issue away.
I understand that. My concern is down the road, what happens for the residents, because, you know, just across the intersection, there's apartments and offices that are being built on the, you know, southeast corner there, that they may not want to see something in an unrestricted if, you know, 10 years from now, you know, the recreation facility closes up. You know, so my concern is what happens, particularly with the properties facing Shoto. You know, and I realize it's mostly a parking lot, vacant land right now anyway. But if something were to be built there, that, you know, it doesn't, you know, cause concern for the neighbors who are catty corner to this property. So, you know, I appreciate your clarification in terms of, you know, that like a junkyard won't be able to go in there, but I still would kind of hold reservations with respect to, you know, allowing public input. And I think I'm kind of reiterating what, you know, two of the other commissioners have said. At some point in time, you know, this is an opportunity for public input, you know, where there's public postings. Usually the Board of Adjustments is another opportunity to do so if someone's getting a variance for a use of a property. And, you know, they're the Board of Aldermen, but the Board of Aldermen, they don't publicly post meetings at the site for the Board of Aldermen hearing. So I don't think that that's a fair statement to make where, well, they'll have another opportunity.
Actually,
to.
Alderman Cohen, we do post the HUD committee meeting at the site, because my office is responsible for that.
Okay, great. If that's the case, then I'm not as concerned about that. But, you know, and again, like, supportive of this current, you know, proposal and use. I'm just more concerned about how this would impact, you know, neighbors 10, 20 years down the road, potentially.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Pfeffer had a question.
Thank you, Chair Strother. I don't want to complicate this further, but I do have a question, and that is essentially to either planning staff or Ms. Burton, whether zoning this as I, Central Business District, would resolve the variance issue, or whether the entertainment use would be permitted under I. Because if I just think about some of the major entertainment stadiums and other things in the central corridor, those are, I believe, and I may be wrong, and please correct me if so, zoned I. And would this resolve this, or?
No, I'm sorry, if I'm correct, they said the reason for the zoning is so that both parcels are zoned the same, not to change the zoning for K.
Right, I'm suggesting changing both the J and K to I. And the additional rationale for this, I'll note, is if you look at the city zoning map, there's a fairly contiguous area, which is Central Business District, and then a fairly contiguous area, around the highway and rail, which is J and K. But what's really happening here, if you think about the changes, the large scale changes that the SLU 353 is enacting in this geography, is that they are, with the addition of entertainment, with the addition of housing, with the this is not associated with 353, but with the arrival of a large employer, the character of the neighborhood is changing somewhat. So I'm just curious if, and I'm not necessarily suggesting, I'm happy to move forward, but I'm just trying to understand whether zoning at all as central business district would resolve any of these issues.
I'll defer that question. Jonathan, any response?
I will defer, but I will say just real quickly, under the SLU 353 redevelopment area, it does call for a non-residential mixed use. So J or K would be appropriate to fulfill that purpose. And I'll hand over specifically anything to do with I to the zoning administrator.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. So the use itself would be allowed in the I district. I don't think that's a call that we can make on the spot, though. If we want to consider that rezoning to I think myself and the planning staff would need a little time to, consider that and look at the other requirements in the I district, but the use would be allowed.
Another question, would we need more information about the use in order to make that determination to permit the rezoning versus now leaving it as unrestricted, which clearly does not require a substantial amount of information regarding the proposed use?
So I would need the same amount of information regardless of what they were asking to rezone it to. It's considered, under the zoning code, it's considered a place of assembly, like many of the other, facilities throughout the city. So it's the same use regardless of the zoning district. Am I answering your question?
You are. What I'm hearing is that from the perspective of the zoning law, all that we care about is that it will be a place of assembly, and the design details are not necessarily relevant to the decision, to the zoning determination.
Not for the rezoning, no.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, when it's appropriate, I'll have a question. Let's go
Okay,
on.
I will. Just one moment. Jonathan, can you speak to the white? I guess I would call it a thoroughfare, but it's not a street as I'm looking at a visual. What is that piece right in the middle above the A and the U?
We believe that was a street that was vacated by the city of St. Louis, a vacated street that no longer, or vacated alley that no longer exists.
Okay, so that does not have to have a zoning or be in compliance with this? This has been vacated?
When it's consolidated, it would everything under the black shape there would be zoned, whatever you deem zone, but everything in that, it would be rezoned.
Okay, thank you. Don, you had some comments?
It just sort of in the subtleties between some uses and chances for public comment. In the whole area, as we see, is J and K, with a small portion of J and a much larger portion of K. Mary articulated a concern that the setbacks are different in both of those districts. And the K would allow a different set of setbacks to be permitted. My question, Mary, if you have enough information to tell us this, would all their uses be allowed in the J, but there would still be some subtlety refinements that they need to get permission for via variances on setbacks and things like that, if they were to go to J versus K?
All of their uses are allowed in the J or the K district.
But then, Mary,
And
go
I
ahead.
further want to explain that the reason for the setback issue is because if you look at the map, that I guess that would be the northern boundary, runs at a diagonal instead of straight, I guess, because it's following the right of way there. So that's what created a setback issue for them.
So in the open book, the K is, but as you noted, there are still some restrictions and conditional uses. The distinction between J and K may be small, but there is a distinction as to what type of uses would be allowed in K, but not J.
Yes, there's.
So in the long term, if it was J, the door would not be open for those extra uses. We're not defining them as K. But this particular developer, if it was to be consolidated all as J, would need to come in and have a hearing about dealing with their setback through a variance of the Board of Adjustment. Is that essentially correct?
Yes.
And so that would be another chance for the public to weigh in.
It would be.
Okay, last
Food for
question.
thought.
Commissioner Pfeffer.
Thank you, Chair Strother. I just wanted to flag that one of the compounding factors that takes the whole transparency issue that we've been discussing and really raises the stakes on it is that this is within the SLU 353, which provides the SLU 353 with the authority, the SLU Redevelopment Corporation, with the authority to award tax abatements up to, I believe, statute by ordinance 25 years without further public engagement, without LCRA approval, without an ordinance. And so that just takes the transparency interest much higher. Now, I'm not as worried because we have had some preliminary conversations with the 353. And I would just like to ask the developers who are on the call if there are any plans to award incentives for this project.
I'm waiting for a response from George Stock or any of the other parties that were with him.
So
Mr.
George,
Chairman, this is Alderwoman Davis. If they're not responding, I can answer.
Welcome, Alderwoman Davis. You can go ahead, and then I think George was on and was getting ready to respond.
Well, thank
Okay,
you. I'll defer.
I'm just going to simply say that no incentives have been asked, nor do I anticipate any. And of course, they have my full support. And we have talked about and reviewed this because we do want to see this particular project grow. And Kay provides that opportunity. And I'll be quiet unless someone asks me a question later. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. So with that, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, it's Don again.
Yes, sir.
To Engineer Stockley, where are you in the re-subdivision consolidation process?
Mr. Rowe, that's been completed.
So that has been completed through the Board of Public Service for all
Yes,
these
sir.
lots to be consolidated.
Yes, sir.
And thank you so much, Alderwoman, for that. That's completely aligned with previous conversations we've had on this, and I appreciate you jumping on. If it's all right, I would appreciate an answer from the SLU representatives on the line on this question as well.
So George, would you respond to Commissioner Pfeffer, please?
Yeah, I can't answer that question.
Can't as in inability or not or knowledge?
I don't have the knowledge. So I think Alderwoman Davis, I think she has.
I have the knowledge because of, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
Thank
talking directly to the developer, and SLU has handled their part of it, and I'm handling my side of it. And as I have shared with our SLDC Executive Director, Neil Richardson, I've shared that with him that we shall not contemplate that. And I do know that Todd Waldrop is also looking to get in touch with, and I think they've been playing phone tag, so that they can be on the same accord with all other anticipation of any type of city approvals that are required and to make sure that Mr. Richardson is definitely in accord. I've insisted on that. I've shared that with him. I've shared it with the developers, and that is how we will move forward on this.
Thank you again. I really appreciate that spirit of partnership that you and SLU have brought to this. And I understand that George may not be in a position to answer this. However, we do also have Brooks Goodacre on the line representing the SLU Midtown Redevelopment Corporation. And I would just appreciate confirmation that we are all aligned on this.
Thanks.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Brooks Goodacre, Executive Director of the St. Louis Midtown Redevelopment Corporation. That is true what Alderwoman Davis said. There is no intent here to seek any tax abatement at this time, and we don't foresee that happening.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. No further questions.
Thank you. With that, I will have Jonathan recap the ask of the team, and then we will I'll entertain a motion.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman. And just one moment, please. Okay, so staff finds that from the zoning administrator's perspective, that this rezoning this would create additional recreational opportunities and would activate a visible and vacant underutilized site. Staff finds both the proposed 12 parcels and also the city initiated parcels would be in conformance with the SLUP, the business industrial development area, and also the St. Louis Midtown 353 redevelopment plan, and also that staff recommends approval of the rezoning.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion from any of the commissioners.
I move to approve. I'll second.
It was moved by Commissioner Bradley, seconded by Alderman Boyd. Call for vote, please.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Kuhn,
Pass.
Commissioner Banton,
Abstain.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples,
Aye.
Commissioner Goodman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Aye.
Commissioner Weber,
Aye.
Chair Strother,
Aye.
and the motion passes
Yep.
with
You still have to return back to Commissioner Cohn. He
Oh.
passed.
Commissioner Kuhn. I'm sorry,
Aye.
Alderman Kuhn. And the motion passes with 8 ayes and 1 abstention.
All right. Thank you very much, commissioners. And again, thank you very much, Alderwoman. Glad to see you joined us at this point. The next item, Jonathan, I think is still in your Rolodex.
Thank you, Chair. The second item I will introduce this evening, staff has received a petition to assign a name to a new street in a re-subdivision that was approved by the Board of Public Service. The petition, and I do apologize, that image on the screen is a plat, so I apologize for it looks really, okay. The petition submitted was by Michael C. Miller on behalf of the Board of Public Service. This petition includes the Shaw Avenue dedication plat for the street, which was approved earlier this year, and also the 8th Ward Alderperson Annie Rice's letter for approval, and also a statement regarding the proposed name. The new street, next slide, please. The new street is located within the Southwest Gardens neighborhood within the 8th Ward. And again, that's supported by Alderman Annie Rice. This 0.11 mile new road extends from Kings Highway on the west to Shaw Boulevard to the east. Next slide, please. Here are 2 aerials of the proposed, or of the site. On the top is an image from 2015, and the bottom is what is out there currently in 2021. You can see on the site, the the dotted blue line is where the new street is. So on the top, under the dotted blue line is what was there existing, and on the bottom, you can see under the dotted blue line where the new street is currently today. This propose this in the dotted line, the Kings Highway Bridge improvement, turned a three-way intersection at Shaw Avenue, and which is in the solid blue line, and Kings Highway, which is yellow, into a four-way intersection, which is identified as the dotted blue line there, which would then provide access to the east towards Shaw Boulevard. Next slide, please. In review, the process for renaming a street, for naming a new street within a subdivision, besides the plan, as I mentioned before, and the aldermanic letter, we also receive a statement documenting the proposed street name significance. The street name is Shaw Avenue. The significance is it's an extension of the existing Shaw Avenue that's east of the Kings Highway Boulevard. And this, again, this turns a three-way intersection into a four-way intersection. Also, under this review, we reviews the petition is forwarded to the postmaster of the city of St. Louis, as well as the president of the Board of Public Service for the review and comment. Staff has received favorable recommendations from them both, which is included in your packet. And finally, under the review, PDA's review of the street renaming, we look at a street renaming criteria. Next slide, please. And the criteria that you can see on the screen, there's 5 components to that. Only 4 would qualify for this. So those criteria I would go over, and why this would, and what PDA's analysis has, what the analysis has shown. So one is that the new road, the name of the road, it would be conducive to good city planning, and it would protect the investments of other property owners, especially one fronting the proposed street. In this particular case, it turns a three-way intersection into a four-way. Also, on the Shaw Avenue dedication plat, all the adjoining property owners, especially the ones fronting the street, signed off on that plat for the Shaw Avenue. B, there's a significance in the name that respects to heritage or history. In this case, it is named after Henry Shaw, which is a well-known St. Louis figure. C would not apply because this criteria also applies to street renamings. So in this case, as we're not doing a renaming, C would not apply. D is name all the segments in the street. So you're not having just one component rename something else, why the other sides would. So if you take we want to make sure the whole street is named the same thing instead of having 3 different names on the same street. So in this case, this would extend Shaw Avenue. So it would keep that name. And E is when you're naming it after a street after a person, one, it needs to be at least 1 year after the person's death, and 2, to hopefully use the last name. In both cases, Henry Shaw has been deceased for a while now, and also the last name has been used. Next slide, please. That staff finds under the review of the naming of the new street, Shaw Avenue, that it does meet the criteria for street names. This has been reviewed by and recommended by both the president of BPS and also the postmaster for the city of St. Louis. And staff recommends approval of the petition as submitted to rename the street, or to name the street between the new street between Kings Highway and Shaw Boulevard to Shaw Avenue. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments, and I believe BPS, Mr. C. Miller, is on the line as well.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. At this point, I will simply open the floor to any commissioners if there's any questions.
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd, Alderman Boyd, go ahead.
Thank you. This is quite interesting. I know I've done a street naming, and we kind of just put a street in the middle of where, how do I say this? So Theodosia was the street, and so it was like a cutoff. So we put this new street, but it kind of ran the same way, and so it stayed Theodosia with a new 100 block of addresses. I'm just kind of curious as to what process do we use to rename a street? I know a lot of my colleagues are, real big on community input. And so how did we come up with Shaw Avenue versus, I don't know, whatever avenue? Because it sounds confusing to me. I mean, if I was driving down Kings Highway and somebody said, well, we get to Shaw, make a left. I mean, do I do this Shaw Avenue? Do I do Shaw Boulevard? To me, it sounds confusing, but I'm not a planner. So I'm curious to be educated on why would we name it Shaw Avenue and not something that's not going to be confusing? And was there community input and community engagement on what the street name should be?
Thank you, Alderman. Excuse me one quick second, please.
So Alderman Boyd and Rich and Mike C. Miller, I'll say this has been in the works for a long enough time that it was originally a Roman Cordell project. And it's a new street that BPS was involved in creating. It took a while to do, related to the Kings Highway Bridge modification. And it's viewed as a continuation of Shaw Avenue, which is on the west side of Kings Highway, to come across Kings Highway and then join up with Shaw Boulevard. And as that continuation, one of our principles is to have all the segments of the street named the same. So this is essentially a newly created segment, and we're having it be a continuation of Shaw. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So maybe I just, epiphany just occurred. So we already have Shaw Boulevard. Which
we have both. Yeah.
Oh, and so they opened up a new street called Shaw Avenue. I mean,
segment of a new created a new segment.
Got it.
Needed a name, and this is the one that follows the rules the best.
Yeah, makes sense now. I got it now. I didn't see, for some reason I didn't see it, but I see it. It's just as what I said about Theodosia. The same thing we did, except we didn't have a Theodosia Boulevard or something on the north or south of it. Got it. Thank you for clearing that up, Don.
Thank you, Alderman Boyd. Any other commissioner questions at this point? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion from any commissioner at this point.
I move to approve.
Second, Commissioner Boaz.
It's been moved by Alderman Boyd, seconded by Commissioner Boaz.
Previous roll.
Objection.
Objection to previous roll. Please call for vote.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Kuhn,
Aye.
Commissioner Banton,
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Peoples,
Aye.
Commissioner Goodman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfeffer,
Aye.
Commissioner Weber,
Aye.
Chair Strather.
Aye.
Motion passes without present voting aye.
Thank you for that, Jonathan.
Thank you.
That's all of our action items, and I believe at this point, Cecilia will be coming up with some informational items.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a quick minute. I'm not going to take a whole lot more of your time, as I do appreciate the hard work you guys are doing. Just wanted to let you guys know that the ordinances that you all reviewed previously about how we're going to change the way that we work through zoning amendments, we will start having public hearings at the Planning Commission in 2022. So any rezonings that come in on or after January 1st will follow our new process. Just wanted to kind of put this out there for clarity with you guys, to kind of give you an idea of what the flow is going to be like. We will have our normal staff presentations. We'll also have the zoning administrator give a little bit of presentations on her findings as well, following our staff presentations. We'll then open the public hearing. We'll have individuals speak for 3 minutes and individuals representing organizations 5 minutes. This is the standard that we've used for public hearings in the past, and it seems to work to give people an opportunity to speak. without going into the wee hours of the night. So we will then close the public hearing, and you all will have an opportunity to then ask your questions based on the presentations, based on the public hearing, all the questions you have. You'll be able to ask questions of PDA staff, zoning staff, and or the petitioner, or anyone else who's able to speak on the questions that you have. And then the commissioners will be able to you'll be able to approve the recommendations, modify or deny as normal. If you go to the next slide. A few things that are going to be in the works. We do have the required notifications by our by our standard that is in the code. And that includes a notice in the city journal at least 15 days ahead of time, and 2 physical postings on each city block that's affected, again, 15 days in advance. So that will be happening before the Planning Commission public hearing. Additionally, we're going to start doing some best practice outreach and see how it goes. We want to start emailing the neighborhood associations that these petitions are coming before the Planning Commission for public hearing. And we will be sending postcard mailings to the immediately adjacent property owners. Again, there's going to be some, learning curves around doing this. But we want to, do our best to get the public notice out there. And it's an evening meeting to give people an opportunity to really speak about these issues. If we go to the next slide. Some things to note, and some of this kind of goes back to the discussion we were having today, is that in reviewing straight rezoning requests, the Planning Commission is considering the appropriateness of the request, not always the project or the design of the project. So for example, the rezoning request that we heard this evening, the request is to rezone to an industrial district, which does not allow for residential and would allow for other most uses. The request is in compliance with the strategic land use plan, the business industrial development area, again, which similarly to the rezoning request for K does not allow for residential. So all of this stuff is consistent. Same thing with the Chapter 353. It is the intent of the Chapter 353 in that plan is to encourage non-residential uses. So the request that they had before us was in compliance with those things. It is fair to have those discussions about, is J more appropriate? That makes perfect sense. But we can't go into the site in these requests. We do have some overlay districts that we bring to you when it makes sense and when it's appropriate, like the planned unit development, the community unit plan, and in some cases, the form-based code does have an opportunity for design, discussion, and review. So, at those times when those come up, we encourage you guys to really look at them and make sure that if there are modifications to the approval to add certain elements or consider, different design or things like that, we can incorporate those into the rezoning requests. If we go to the next slide, this is the last slide. And that's basically just to show that we do also have the ability to integrate design requirements within blighting study and redevelopment plans. So within redevelopment plans, we can also modify and make recommendations because we are giving them tax abatement, we are giving them, something that they're asking for. We can also ask for additional requirements. So we'll be using the neighborhood plans that we develop to provide recommendations for modifications to those redevelopment plans as it's appropriate. And then additionally, I would note that with all of this additional responsibility, the Board of Aldermen has also passed the ordinance that will now require a 2/3 majority vote to overturn a negative recommendation of the Planning Commission. So as you guys keep looking at these things and asking all the great questions, just remember that we do have that weight as well. Do you guys have any questions or anything else that I can answer?
Yeah, Alderman Boyd, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, it wouldn't be me if I didn't say something. I just wanted to compliment Cecilia, Mary Hart Burton, the whole staff of planning for working with the ordinance to get us at this point, because it was long overdue. I think it's going to make the Planning Commission more effective, more influential, more respected, and we're going to be more efficient at doing what we do. I've complained for a long time about how things have been done backwards, where it comes to us after a board bill has been approved. And I think this is going to help us not have to deal with that in the future, and that we'll have, as a planning commission, meaningful input for years to come. So I just wanted to, compliment the staff for all the good work they did with the board bills that have allowed us to get to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Boyd. Cecilia, can you go back to your public hearing slide just for a
Yeah,
moment?
absolutely.
I just want to make a kind of a recommendation to,
Okay,
or a
absolutely.
thought.
One
The
more.
one with the, no, before that, that
There
one
we go.
right there. Just a thought right there in the part number 3, you say open hearings, 3 individuals have 3 minutes, individuals have 3 minutes,
Mhm.
individuals representing their organizations have 5. I don't know the efficacy of having organizations register prior to the meeting, because it's very possible 3 individuals may stand up and say they're representing an organization.
Mhm.
And then we get bogged down into that. I would want to know if organizations are required or could be required to register prior to the meeting, where individuals don't, but organizations, so that we don't have 4 or 5 or 6 people speaking from the neighborhood association.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think we've run into that issue before. I think, if it's a neighborhood association, usually like the president or someone will organize to speak for the association. But we can certainly, obviously, we're in this hybrid mode. We have to allow people to sign up when they get here. We can't make them register in advance. But we can certainly moderate that and make sure before we get to that part that we regulate if there are multiple people who say they are for a particular organization, that we let them know that only one can speak for 5 minutes.
Right, because we don't have the way to verify that at that time. So I want to, have some level of control at that.
Yes.
But beyond that, thank you. I echo Alderman Boyd's statement. It has been efficient in making it a lot easier and much more exciting to do. I'll entertain any final comments or questions from the commissioners at this point. And seeing no hands, I would simply first say I will entertain, before I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to say something, Earl, before you do that.
Oh, well, of course. How would it not be Don's meeting before we do it?
So just want to thank the whole PDA and staff and Planning Commission for another year under our belt. And also make a couple comments about our greater PDA and Planning Commission family. I'll give some happy news first. And that is Roman Cordell, who I just mentioned had been involved for many years with us, invited me to a Browns game. As you know, he was from Cleveland. They were playing the Patriots, which was my hometown. And the Patriots just stomped all over the Browns, but Roman was happy and excited. So he's happy and excited. And then, Mr. Chairman, I just want to pay some respect for hearing that you've lost a family member recently through a car accident, and our hearts and our thoughts are with you, sir.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. Thank you. With that, before we could adjourn, I would like to wish all of you a happy holiday in whichever way you celebrate it, by any name or whichever way. As Don mentioned, I lost a 21-year-old niece, so I'm finding out that life is very short and very precious. So enjoy your family, enjoy your time, and thank you very much for your commitment this year. And to the staff, thank you very much. We would wish you the best of holidays for that. And at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn. Second.
It's been
Alderman
moved it was moved by Commissioner Weber, and I second Commissioner Cohen. Alderman Kuhn, thank you very much. Happy holiday.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Take care.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
Chairman.
Thank you, staff.
Holidays.